Okay, Prime Minister or Chief Minister, who has actually held the real power in Pakistan's history? Look, the truth is probably going to shock you a bit. For decades, global attention has been completely, totally fixed on the federal capital. The big headlines, the international summits, the intense policy debates, they literally all revolve around the Prime Minister. But today, we're unpacking a high-stakes dynamic that flips that traditional script entirely. We're going to dig right into the actual ground-level machinery of power and see where the real control actually lies. It's a question that kind of challenges everything we naturally assume about national leadership, right? I mean, when you picture a nation's leader, you instantly envision the prime minister sitting in the capital, steering the country's direction, signing big treaties, addressing the nation, the whole shebang. But the absolute center of gravity in Pakistani politics, it isn't where you'd expect. The real leverage, that day-to-day authority that directly impacts millions of lives, dictates local economies and enforces the law, well, it often bypasses the prime minister's desk entirely. We are looking at a system where regional influence can effectively neutralize federal mandates. Since literally 1947, our historical lens, the front page news, the international debates, the textbooks, has almost exclusively highlighted the prime ministers. But honestly, that is a total myth. The reality is that the real game is being played in the provinces. While Islamabad is busy setting foreign policy or dealing with the International Monetary Fund, the actual gritty battles for governance are fought on the ground. Resource distribution, healthcare, education, and sheer political survival, those are won and lost at the provincial level. If you really want to understand how the country runs day to day, you have to look away from the capital. You've probably heard the phrase, Takht-e-Lahore, the throne of Lahore. And let me tell you, that is not just some poetic title. It is a hard, undeniable political reality. The decisions made by a chief minister sitting there have the sheer demographic weight and economic power to completely rattle the federal capital. Just imagine a regional office having so much leverage that the central headquarters is constantly looking over its shoulder. Punjab holds a massive chunk of the country's population and agricultural output. So when Lahore makes a major administrative move or refuses to cooperate with a federal mandate or shifts its political allegiance, those shockwaves are felt instantly in the corridors of Islamabad. The prime minister's agenda can literally be stalled by a single dissenting chief minister. Now, we didn't just arrive at this dynamic overnight. Actually, back in 1947, power was heavily center-focused. For decades, the prime minister held all the major cards, and chief ministers were effectively just extensions of the federal government. They were often viewed as, essentially figures who merely followed the center's orders, easily appointed and easily dismissed whenever Islamabad felt threatened. If a chief minister stepped out of line, the federal government could, and often did, just completely dismiss the provincial government. But that entire power structure completely shattered with a massive, tectonic shift towards decentralized power. That ultimate turning point? The 18th Amendment. And guys, this wasn't just some minor legal tweak. It was literally a constitutional earthquake. It drastically transferred authority, handing over key ministries like health, education, local government, along with massive financial resources directly to the provinces. Almost overnight, it transformed chief ministers from dependent administrators into incredibly powerful, autonomous political titans. Islamabad could no longer just dictate local policy. The provinces were now constitutionally protected to manage their own affairs, and that gave chief ministers unprecedented executive authority and total financial independence.
Because of this newfound immense power, the whole nature of the political battlefield has entirely changed. Removing or protecting a chief minister today is an absolute monumental task. The stakes are so high now that these battles aren't just straightforward debates on assembly floors anymore. They've moved directly into high court courtrooms. We're seeing intense legal warfare, super dramatic overnight votes of no confidence, and incredibly complex constitutional crises. The chief minister's seat is just so valuable that political parties will use every single legal maneuver, every loophole, and every judicial appeal available to secure it. It's turned provincial politics into a high-stakes, ruthless legal chess match. And look, this isn't just an isolated thing happening in one area. Whether we're talking about the intricate political landscape of Sindh, the shifting, high-energy dynamics of KPK, the vast, resource-rich geography of Balochistan, or the sheer demographic weight of Punjab, the will remains exactly the same. The decentralization of power has created 4 distinct, highly powerful centers of gravity. In every single one of these provinces, the office of the chief minister has become the ultimate prize, operating with a massive degree of independence from whatever government happens to be sitting in Islamabad. So why exactly is that seat the ultimate prize?
Well, a strong chief minister basically wields three massive pillars of localized power that give them almost absolute authority in their domain. First up, the development budget. We are talking about billions of rupees for infrastructure, hospitals, and schools, all entirely at the chief minister's discretion. That is pure political capital. Second, the police. Controlling law enforcement means you hold the keys to regional security, public order, and local influence. And third, the bureaucracy. They have the power to appoint, promote, or transfer the administrative officers who actually run the districts day to day. When you control the money, the guns, and the civil service, yeah, your power is undeniable. It really all boils down to this one simple reality. Whoever wins the province rules the center, period. Because of this immense control over the budget, the police force, and the bureaucratic machinery, every major political party focuses all its energy, strategy, and campaign funds on capturing the chief minister's seat. It is virtually impossible to successfully run the federal government in Islamabad if you have hostile, empowered chief ministers actively operating against you in the provinces. They can block your initiatives, disrupt your economic plans, and just constantly challenge your authority. The path to ultimate national power doesn't end at the Prime Minister's office. It is entirely paved by conquering the provinces first.
So, knowing what we know now about the constitutional earthquake of the 18th Amendment, the absolute control over massive provincial budgets, and how the real game is played far, far outside the borders of Islamabad, who do you think is the most powerful and successful chief minister in Pakistan's history? It's a totally complex landscape with so many fascinating historical figures who have wielded this immense power. Drop your thoughts and your rationale down in the comments below. And hey, if you appreciate these clear, structured deep dives, make sure to follow along so you don't miss our next explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.